In my platoon, they had a name for me, Casper. Not because I was fast or invisible to the enemy, but because to my own unit, I barely existed, until they needed someone to blame. They call you Casper because you're quiet, because you check your gear 3 times, because you read the technical manuals instead of joining the barracks brawls. But in the infantry, in the dusty, God-forsaken valleys of the Kunar province, quiet means weak, and weak means you're the first one they feed to the wolves. I never imagined my own staff sergeant would be the one leading the pack. I felt the weight of that word. Coward. It was a physical thing. A heavy, wet blanket they threw over my shoulders every morning at roll call. It was in the way they'd look at me, or rather, through me. I was the communications specialist, the tech guy, attached to a platoon of men who believed true soldiering was measured in muscle and volume. My CO, Staff Sergeant Marcus Thorne, known as Rhino, was the loudest of them all. He was a bull of a man, with a voice that sounded like gravel in a blender, and he had decided, from the moment I arrived, that I was a liability. I remember standing in the motor pool, the Afghan sun already a hammer at 0600, and him looking at my fresh-faced replacement. He'd slapped the new private on the helmet, hard enough to make him rattle. "You stick with me, kid," Thorne boomed, loud enough for me to hear 2 vehicles over. "You learn from the grunts. Don't end. Up like Casper over there. All books, no balls. First sign of contact, he'll be the one curled up behind the tires." The laughter was sharp. It stung more than the sweat in my eyes. I just tightened a strap on my radio pack. I just double-checked the battery. I didn't know it then, but Thorne needed me to be the coward. His entire identity depended on it. I never knew how badly they all needed that label, until the day the sky fell apart, and I was the only one looking up. We were stationed at Forward Operating Base Vigilance. It was less a base, and more a collection of blast walls and shipping containers dropped in the middle of a graveyard of empires. The air smelled of diesel, pulverized dust, and something metallic, like old blood baked into the ground. My world was the TOC, the Tactical Operations Center, a dark air-conditioned box filled with the low hum of servers and the crackle of a dozen different radio nets. I was good at my job. I could get a signal where others couldn't. I could make broken data streams sing. In the TIOC, I was a specialist. But the moment I stepped outside, I was just Casper. My unit was 2nd Platoon, Bravo Company, a hard-charging infantry platoon. They were good at kicking indoors. They were good at being aggressive, but they weren't good at thinking. They operated on instinct and aggression, and that all flowed directly from Staff Sergeant Thorne. Thorne hated me. He hated my glasses. He hated that I spoke in full sentences. He hated that I didn't grunt when I lifted my pack. He was old school. He believed fear was a disease, and that the only way to cure it was to scream at it until it went away. He saw me as a carrier. I tried to blend in. I pulled my weight on patrols. I carried the extra batteries without complaint, adding 20 pounds to my already heavy comms pack. I never failed a gear inspection, but it didn't matter. When you are marked, you are marked. The rest of the platoon, they followed his lead. They were a brotherhood, and I was the outsider. The only one who ever spoke to me like I was human was our medic, PFC Ramirez. Doc, we called him. He was quiet too, but he was a medic. Medics get a pass. They have a tangible skill. They stop the bleeding. My skill? It was invisible. It was just waves in the air. One evening, I was in the chow hall trying to eat alone. Doc Ramirez slid into the bench opposite me. "Don't let him get to you, man," Ramirez muttered, stirring his powdered eggs. "Rhino's just Rhino. He's loud, but he's mostly hot air." I just nodded, pushing a piece of reconstituted chicken around my tray. "It's not the volume, Doc. It's the precision. He's trying to break me." "Why, though?" Doc asked. "You do your job. You're squared away." I looked at Thorne, holding court at the center table, laughing his booming laugh. "Because I'm not like him. Because I don't hide my fear by pretending I don't have any. I just manage it. He can't stand that. He thinks if you aren't loud, you aren't strong." I picked up my tray. "He thinks I'm going to get someone killed." Doc looked down. He said as much. At the NCO meeting, my stomach tightened. I felt cold. "What? What did he say?" "He told the lieutenant he was putting in a request to have you reassigned," Doc said, avoiding my eyes. He said he can't trust a coward to have his back." I stood there, the noise of the chow hall fading to a dull roar. It wasn't just barracks hazing anymore. He was actively trying to destroy my career. He was telling the chain of command, officially, that I was a coward. I was being tried and convicted without a single shot being fired. "And the lieutenant?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "He told him to manage his men," Doc said, "which means Rhino is just going to turn up the heat." I walked out of the chow hall. The injustice was a physical weight, heavier than my pack. He wasn't just bullying me. He was sabotaging me. He was painting a target on my back for our own men. I went back to my bunk, my mind racing. I couldn't fight him. I couldn't outshout him. He was the platoon sergeant. His word was law. I felt trapped. I felt erased. I realized then that my reputation was already dead. The only thing left was the man, and I didn't know how much longer I could hold on to that. We were prepping for a simple resupply run. Milk run, Thorne called it. A routine patrol to Outpost Sierra, a small hilltop position 10 clicks away. But I had a feeling, a cold knot in my gut that I couldn't shake. The comms chatter was too quiet, and Rhino, he was looking for a reason to break me for good. The morning of the patrol, the tension was so thick I could taste the copper. We were in the motor pool, loading the MRAPs. Thorne was doing his final inspection, walking the line like a predator. He got to me. I was running a final systems check on the vehicle's long-range comms. My personal gear was already packed. Every battery charged, every antenna seated. "Casper," he barked. I snapped to attention. "Sir." He didn't call me sergeant. He didn't even call me specialist. Just Casper. He grabbed the handset of my vehicle's radio. "You sure this toy is working today? Or is it gonna wet itself when the time comes?" "It's fully operational, Staff Sergeant. I've got a green net. Checked it twice." My voice was flat, emotionless. I learned that showing emotion was like bleeding in shark-infested waters. He pressed the transmit button. "Bravo 6, this is Bravo 2-2. Radio check over." He waited. Nothing. He did it again. "Bravo 6, radio check over." My blood ran cold. I knew it was working. I had just talked to the TOC. Thorne slammed the handset down. "What did I tell you, you useless piece of... We're rolling out in 5 minutes and you've got us deaf and dumb. Fix your gear, specialist, or I will have you walking back to Kandahar." He stormed off to bully the machine gunner. I grabbed the handset. I knew what he'd done. He'd switched the frequency dial. Just one click. Just enough to get static. It was a simple, petty, childish act of sabotage. I clicked it back to the primary channel. Pressed the button. "Bravo 6, this is 2-2, radio check." The TOC's voice came back instantly. 2-2, loud and clear. What's your status?" I looked at Thorne's back. He was already laughing with the gunner. He had just humiliated me in front of the entire platoon. He had created a failure just to pin it on me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the handset at his head, but I didn't. I just keyed the mic. "Bravo 6, we are green. Rolling out." I closed my eyes for a second. This was the game. He wasn't just an antagonist. He was a saboteur. He was willing to risk the platoon's comms, our lifeline, just to prove his point about me. I felt a new kind of fear, not of the enemy, but of the man sitting in the command seat of my own truck. We rolled out. 2 MRAPs, 8 men. The valley was beautiful in a brutal way. The mountains were sharp, red, and empty. I was in the lead vehicle, in the C seat, right behind Thorne. My job was to listen, to be the ears. My personal radio was slung on my chest, the vehicle-mounted one next to me. I monitored platoon comms, company comms, and the air support net. The silence was deafening. "Getting nervous, Casper?" Thorne's voice crackled over the internal comms. "Sweating on your little computer?" "Just monitoring the nets, Staff." "Sergeant," I said. "Yeah, well, monitor this." He pointed to a narrow pass up ahead. "We call that the gauntlet. High ground on both sides. Perfect ambush spot. You pucker up just thinking about it, don't you?" I didn't answer. I just zoomed in on the pass on my digital map. My gut was screaming. This was a bad route, a textbook kill box. There was an alternate route, longer, over a ridge, but it was slower. Thorne liked speed. "Staff Sergeant," I said, my voice as calm as I could make it. "The 101st reported activity in this grid square 2 days ago. Suggest we reroute over Ridge 7. It's a safer approach." Thorne laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Safer? We're not here to be safe, specialist. We're here to get a job done. We push through. You just try not to cry if someone pops a firecracker." The other 2 soldiers in the truck, the driver and the gunner, chuckled nervously. They were loyal to him. They had to be. We entered the pass. The walls of the valley rose. up on either side of us. I felt naked. My eyes were scanning every rock, every shadow. I watched the ridgeline. My hand was on the SATCOM panel. I felt my heart climbing into my throat. This was wrong. This was so wrong. See? Thorne said, his voice smug. Nothing but ghosts. You're afraid of your own shadow, Vance. And that's when the world exploded. It wasn't a firecracker. It was an RPG. The first rocket hit the second vehicle. I saw it in the side view camera. A flash of orange, a plume of black smoke, and then just static from their comms. The truck slewed to a halt, burning. Then the machine guns opened up, from both sides. The sound, it's not like the movies. It's a deafening, terrifying, ripping sound. The sound of air being torn apart. Rounds hammered our armor like a giant steel fist. Ping, 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 thwack. Contact! 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 Thorne roared, but his voice was different. It was high, shrill. He was screaming, but he wasn't commanding. Get fire! On that ridge, he yelled. Our gunner on the 50 cal opened up, but he was firing blind. He was just making noise. Vance, get me Cass! Get me air support! Now, now! Thorne was shaking my shoulder. I was already on it. My hands were moving, my training taking over. Mayday, mayday, mayday! This is Vigilant 2-2. We are in a complex ambush. The vehicle radio died. A 12.7mm round had punched through the armor plate right where the antenna array was mounted. The cabin filled with the smell of ozone and burning circuits. It's dead, I yelled. What do you mean, dead? Thorne screamed, his eyes wide, spittle flying from his lips. Use your other radio, you idiot. I was already grabbing my backpack radio, the one I carried on my vest. I unslung it, my hands shaking, trying to deploy the long whip antenna. You're freezing, Thorne bellowed. He wasn't scared anymore. He was furious. This was my fault. In his mind, I had done this. I had failed. You coward. You're freezing. Up! He unclipped his rifle. Driver, back us up, back us up! I can't, Sarge, the driver yelled back. The second truck is blocking us. We're boxed in. The rounds were pouring in. I could hear Doc Ramirez on the platoon net from the other truck. I'm hit! I'm hit! Sarge, we're on fire! We gotta get out! Vance, give me that. Thorne grabbed my backpack radio from me. He didn't know how to use it. Not properly. Not the burst data function. He just grabbed the handset and started screaming. This is Vigilant 2-2. We need air. We're in the gauntlet. We're all gonna die. He was just screaming. He wasn't giving coordinates. He wasn't giving grid. He was just panicking. This was the fall. The moment of my deepest humiliation. In the middle of the worst firefight of my life, my staff sergeant was proving his own prophecy right. He was making me the coward. He was making me the failure. He ripped the radio pack off my vest, breaking the strap, and threw it into the footwell. Get on the gun, he screamed at me. Make yourself useful. Fire your weapon. That's not my job, I yelled back. My job is to get us help. You're not giving them coordinates. You're a coward, Vance. I knew it. I always knew it. He pointed a finger at me, his face purple. You're useless. He turned back to the handset, just screaming our position to anyone, enemy or friendly, who was listening. He was going to get us all killed, and I was going to die right here, in this metal box with the word coward as my epitaph, screamed by the very man who had lost his mind. I looked at the burning wreck of the second MRAP. I could see men bailing out, Doc Ramirez dragging his own leg. They were being cut to pieces, and my commander, my leader, was just a terrified child, screaming into a plastic handset. I looked at Thorne. He was hyperventilating. He was useless. The man who lived by the sword of his own bravado was dying on it, and he was taking us with him. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't rage. It wasn't fear. It was clarity. A cold, sharp, mathematical clarity. All the noise, all the pings and the screaming, it all faded into the background. I wasn't Casper anymore. I was a specialist, and this was a technical problem, a problem that needed a solution. While Thorne was screaming, I had been looking. I had been analyzing. My digital map was still on my tablet. The enemy fire was concentrated from the high ground. But there was a weakness, a flaw in their ambush, a dry riverbed, a wadi. It ran perpendicular to the road, passing under a small concrete bridge just 200 meters ahead of us. It was dead space. It was cover. I looked at Thorne. He was still screaming. Mayday, mayday! We're all dead. I grabbed his vest. I pulled him so his face was inches from mine. Staff Sergeant! He looked at me, his eyes wide and blank. He didn't see me. I pulled him harder. Marcus! His eyes focused. The screaming stopped. Listen to me, I said. My voice wasn't my voice. It was cold. It was hard. It was the voice of the talk. You are compromised. You are panicking. You are going to get us killed. Give me the handset. What? Give me the handset. Now. I didn't ask. I commanded. He just let go. His hand went limp. I grabbed the handset from him. I grabbed the radio pack from the floor. The antenna was bent, but the pack itself was solid. I keyed the mic. I didn't use the voice net. I switched it to burst data, plugged my tablet with the map directly into the radio's port. My fingers were flying. My location, Grid 42 Alpha 7, enemy position 1, Ridgeline 081, enemy position 2, Ridgeline 079, heavy machine guns, RPGs, platoon pinned, 2 vehicles, 1 disabled, requesting immediate KS, danger close. I repeat, danger close. I hit send. The data burst. A 2-second digital screen was on its way to the orbiting A-10s. They had our location. They had the enemy's location. What did you do? Thorne whispered. He was pale. My job, I said. I unhooked my rifle. Now, we move, or we die here. I keyed the platoon net. All vigilant elements, this is Vance. Listen to me. Staff Sergeant Thorne is busy. I am taking command of this element. We are moving. 200 meters north of your position. There is a wadi, a dry riverbed. It's cover. We move on my command. Pop smoke. Pop all your smoke. Vance! It was Ramirez. He was bleeding, but he was alive. What the hell? Doc, get! Your men ready to move. I'm coming for you. Driver, give me everything you've got. Drive at the second vehicle. We're making a shield. Sarge, The driver looked at Thorne. Thorne just stared. Do it! I roared. That's an order. The driver slammed the MR app into gear. The vehicle lurched forward, engine screaming, pushing into the kill zone. Rounds hammered us, but the engine block was taking the hits. And then I heard it. The most beautiful sound in the world. The sound of an angel farting. The deep, guttural brrrrt of the A-10's Gatling gun. The sky ripped open. The A-10 pilot, Thunder 1, had gotten my data. He was walking 30mm rounds right down the ridgeline I had marked. The enemy fire. It didn't lessen. It stopped. Instantly. Now! I screamed. Go! 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 I kicked open my door. I was out. The air was hot, thick with cordite and dust. I ran to the back of the burning MRAP. Doc was there, trying to tie a tourniquet on his own leg. 2 other privates were huddled behind the engine block, paralyzed by fear. On your feet! I yelled, pulling Doc up. We are leaving. Grab him. I pointed at the other 2. You, grab the ammo. You, cover our rear. We move to the bridge, to the wadi. Move. They just looked at me. Their eyes were wide. Who the hell are you? One of them stammered. I'm the guy getting you out of here. I grabbed him by the vest. Move. We ran. All of us. We ran through the smoke, through the dust, through the ungodly silence left by the A-10. I was half carrying Doc, who was swearing in Spanish. We dove into the wadi. We slid down the gravel bank, falling into the dry, shaded riverbed. We were safe. The bullets were all flying over our heads. I looked back. The driver was coming, and behind him, Staff Sergeant Thorne. He was stumbling, his rifle held low. He wasn't a bull. He was just a man, a terrified, broken man. He fell into the wadi last, collapsing against the concrete wall. The platoon was all there. 8 men. Doc was bleeding. 1 other guy had shrapnel in his arm. But we were alive. We were all alive. I keyed my radio. Thunder 1, this is Vigilant 2-2. Good hits. Good hits. Enemy neutralized. We are in the wadi, 200 meters north of the vehicles. We are secure. The pilot's voice came back, casual, calm. Roger, 2-2. Glad we could help. That was, some damn fine coordinating specialist. Best data I've seen all tour. You guys need a ride home? I looked at the 7 men, staring at me. They weren't looking at Casper. They were looking at me, Specialist Vance, the man who had just saved their lives. Affirmative, Thunder 1, I said, my voice finally shaking, the adrenaline starting to ebb. We could use a ride home. I sat back, my pack radio humming, and I looked at Staff Sergeant Thorne. He was staring at his hands, which were covered in dirt. He didn't look at me. He couldn't. I had saved his life, and in doing so, I had just destroyed his. We made it. Back to the FOB. The medevac helicopters took Doc Ramirez and the other wounded man. The rest of us, we stumbled out of the Chinook, covered in dirt, dried blood, and diesel smoke. The captain met us on the tarmac. He looked at the smoking holes in our lead MRAP. He looked at the faces of the men. "Debrief," he said. "My office, now." We were in the talk. The air conditioning felt unnaturally cold. The captain sat at the head of the table. Me, Thorne, the driver, the gunner. "What happened?" The captain asked, his voice low. "Staff Sergeant Thorne." He cleared his throat. He sat up, and the rhino came back. The color returned to his face. The arrogance resettled on his shoulders like a familiar coat. "Captain," he began, his voice smooth and confident. "It was a textbook ambush. They were dug in deep. Soon as we entered the kill zone, they hit us from 3 sides. The second vehicle was disabled immediately." He was lying. It was 2 sides, not 3. "We were pinned," Thorne continued. "My vehicle's comms went down. A round took out the antenna. I immediately switched to the backup, but Specialist Vance..." He paused. He looked at me. It wasn't hatred. It was calculation. "Specialist Vance..." He froze, sir. I just stared at him. I felt the blood drain from my face. He was going to do it. He was going to pin it all on me. "He completely locked up," Thorne said, shaking his head with fake sadness. "He couldn't operate his radio. He was paralyzed. I had to take the comms from him. I had to physically shake him to get him to move. He was a liability, sir. He put us all at risk. The driver and the gunner, they looked at their boots. They said nothing. They were his. I managed to get on the net," Thorne said, puffing out his chest. "I called in the A-10s. I got them on station and talked them onto the target, all while Specialist Vance was cowering in the footwell. I then organized the retreat to the Wadi. It was hectic, sir, but we got it. Done." The captain looked at me. His eyes were hard. "Vance, is that what happened? You froze?" My heart was hammering. This was it. My word against his. The coward's word against the platoon sergeant's. I took a breath. I thought about the man who screamed in the truck. I thought about the man who couldn't even hold his radio. "No, Captain," I said. My voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. "That is not what happened." Thorne scoffed. "Sir, he's just trying to..." "Staff Sergeant, shut up," the captain said, not looking at him. He was looking at me. "Tell me." So I did. I told him everything. I told him about the radio sabotage in the motor pool. I told him about my suggestion to take the safer route and how Thorne ignored it. I told him about the ambush. When the comms went down, I said, "Staff Sergeant Thorne." He did not take command. He panicked. He was screaming into the platoon net without coordinates. He was compromised. "That's a lie." Thorne slammed his fist on the table. "You're a damned coward, Vance. Tell him. Tell him." He looked at the driver. The driver wouldn't meet his gaze. "He's not a coward, Staff Sergeant," the driver said, his voice quiet. "He's not." I continued. "I took the radio from Staff Sergeant Thorne. I sent a burst data transmission to Thunder 1 with precise enemy and friendly locations. I then organized the platoon's retreat to the Wadi and coordinated our extraction." "Sir," Thorne was on his feet. "He's lying. It's my word against his. Who are you going to believe? A decorated staff sergeant or this Casper?" I didn't flinch. I just looked at the captain. "I don't have to believe anyone, Staff Sergeant," I said. I reached into my breast pocket. I pulled out my digital tablet, the one I had plugged into the radio. "It's standard procedure for my station, sir. When I initiate a burst data transmission, my personal recorder automatically buffers the last 10 minutes of audio, from my helmet mic and from the radio. Net, it's for after-action reports." I placed the tablet on the table. "The entire engagement is on here," I said. "Every sound, every command, every scream." Thorne's face, it wasn't white. It was gray, the color of ash. You're bluffing," he whispered. "No, Staff Sergeant, I'm not." I looked at the captain. "Permission to play the file, sir?" The captain just nodded. I hit play. The room filled with the sounds of the ambush. The ping, ping, thwack, the 50 cal firing. And then, Thorne's voice, high, shrill, terrified. "We're all gonna die. We're all dead. Get me. Someone. Mayday, mayday." And then, his voice, directed at me. "Vance! You coward! You're freezing up! You're useless!" The driver and gunner sank lower in their chairs. Thorne looked like he was going to be sick. Then, the audio shifted. My voice. "Staff Sergeant, listen to me. You are compromised. Give me the handset. Now." The room was silent, save for the recording. We listened. We heard me take command. We heard my calm, clear data transmission being called out as I typed it. We heard my orders on the platoon net. "All vigilant elements, this is Vance. I am taking command." We heard Doc Ramirez respond. We heard the driver. And then, we heard the brrrt of the A-10, followed by my calm voice. "Good hits. Good hits. Enemy neutralized." The recording ended. The silence in the TIOC was heavier than any armor. The captain looked at the tablet. Then he looked at Thorne. He didn't yell. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked disgusted. "Staff Sergeant Thorne," the captain said, his voice pure ice. "You are relieved of your command. Effective immediately. Hand your rank and your sidearm to me." "Sir, Captain, Thorne was deflating. The bull was gone. "Now, Sergeant." Thorne slowly reached up. He ripped the Velcro rank from his chest. He unclipped his M9 pistol and laid them both on the table. The sound of the Velcro, it was the loudest thing I had ever heard. "You are confined to your quarters," the captain said. "You'll be on the next flight back to Bagram. You're facing a court-martial for dereliction of duty, endangering your men, and conduct unbecoming." Thorne looked at me. One last time. There was no anger, no hatred, just a vast, hollow emptiness. He had built his entire world on a lie, and I had just shown him the truth. He turned and walked out of the talk. A ghost. The captain looked at me. "Specialist Vance." "Sir, that was extraordinary. You saved every man out there, including him." "I just did my job, sir." "No," the captain said. "You did more than that." He picked up the rank Thorne had left on the table. He looked at it. "You showed us what a soldier is." I was back at my bunk, cleaning my gear, checking my batteries. The platoon was quiet. The next day, when I walked into the chow hall, the men from the patrol, the driver, the gunner, they were at a table. They saw me, the driver. He nodded. He just nodded, and motioned for me to sit down. I sat with them. No one said anything about the ambush. We just ate. They didn't call me Casper. They just called me Vance. And when I asked someone to pass the salt, they did. It was enough. Thorne was sent home. We heard later he took a dishonorable discharge to avoid prison. He was a man who built his entire life on the idea of being a warrior, but he'd never been truly tested. He mistook his own volume for strength. When the test finally came, when the noise was real, he was the first one to break. He confused loyalty to his own ego with loyalty to his men. I learned something that day, in that dusty, bloody valley. Bravery isn't about being the loudest. It's not about the size of your muscles or the bark of your voice. It's not the absence of fear. I was terrified. My hands were shaking the entire time. Bravery is mastery over the fear. It's the ability to think when the world is ending. It's the cold, quiet calculation that gets the job done. They called me a coward because I was quiet, because I saw the risks. But in the end, that quiet, that careful observation, was the only thing that saved us. My silence was my weapon, and the truth was my justice. I finally understood. Where loyalty ends, justice begins.